La 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 la. I don't sing. I've never done this before. I've never been invited to one of these before, and I was so flattered. Malcolm was a very, very, very important part of my life. For 7 years, I was pregnant with my son George when we did the first season. Then I was pregnant with my daughter Mary Louisa in 2002, which would have been, I'm not sure, maybe our third season. And my daughter Mary Louisa is here at Sciences Po. So I am coming to Paris next month just to visit her. So this happened, and I thought, oh, c'est très bien. I can come here to meet all of you and enjoy this incredible reception in Paris and see her also. I've been to Paris several times. I love the city and was surprised that that people didn't know Malcolm so well here. One of the best things was I found when I was shopping and had to, they would let me use the bathroom because they recognized me as Lois.
That's when you know you made it. Bathroom access.
Bathroom access, right, yeah. They really were set on a big, tall, big man to play Hal. And they auditioned and they couldn't find anyone. So we were ready to start the next day, and the word went out, just bring in normal-sized guys. So Bryan was among the normal-sized guys, and there wasn't really much to do for him in the pilot, the first, but Bryan, you know, he's so just gifted. And he did something in this audition, and they said, that's our guy. So we first met Bryan. It was the scene in the pilot where I was shaving his body. And we hadn't met him before. His first day on set, he came in a bathrobe. He took the robe off, and he was covered with, they use yak hair, and they glue it all over him. And he had a little, you know, privacy pouch. And he said hello to everyone, and it was quite a way to introduce yourself to this cast. And then they needed the shape, the real, you know, wouldn't cut it off with because it was glued on. So they needed an insert shot of this razor going up a back. And so they went to the Teamsters. The Teamsters are the drivers. They're the kind of the burly guys who are always eating donuts and driving trucks around. And they chose the hairiest. Yes, they did. Did you know this?
No,
they said, yeah, who wants to make $100? Well, okay. Who's got a hairy back? And a couple guys took their shirts off, and they turned around, and they, you. So they picked one of the guys, and I shaved his, you know, like a ski slope, his back. And I always think of what it was like for him to go home that night and his wife say, darling, what happened to the middle of your back? Oh, we were on a very tight leash. Linwood Boomer, who created the show, was our show. He was actually Malcolm. He grew up as a very, very, very bright student in kind of a crazy family. So the same way Malcolm is a Krull boy, and he goes to this school for the smart kids. Linwood Boomer, who created the show, was that kid. So he had very, very distinct ideas of who this family was, how they were to be portrayed. And unlike many, many shows, especially unlike many comedies, we had to, it was word perfect. We were not allowed to, no. And what was great about that, it was such a disciplined show. He had all the writers, when we started, I think there were 9 scripts ready to go, which is kind of unusual. But he and his writers had gone through these scripts, they had worked out every beat, they had worked out every, so I think that's why the show was so successful. Was there was a real tone. There was a real similar tone throughout. You know, the directors didn't change. You know, it was very, very similar.
So it never happened that you would show up one day on set and say, I have this idea for Lois, she should go into that direction? Or?
Yes, and I was told no. You know, I had admired her. She was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was an incredibly popular show when I was a teenager. And then she had her own spin-off. And she had won an Academy Award for a movie called The Last Picture Show, a Bogdanovich movie. So she was very, very well known in the States. And she had just the same amount of cuckoo energy. And the way we were kept on this tight leash I was talking about, where we knew you had so much work to do, especially with children. When you're working with children, they only have a few hours, according to the union, and you have to get them off the clock. So you had to get those shots with those kids done vite, get them off, and then the grown-ups would come in. Well, Cloris would come in with these ideas. How about if I walk in with a suitcase and it opens up and there's a ham in it? And they'd say, no, we don't have time for that. Just walk in. How about if and they kept saying, you've got. Also, you have to come with your lines memorized. I mean, if you're in a movie, you have a lot more time. But she was so creative that it was almost difficult for her to come in and hit her mark and say the line and continue. Well, this is a story, too, that I actually love to tell, is that because those children had to be off the clock so quickly, they would bring us in, the grown-ups, and the cameras would be behind us, catching our shoulders and everything, to get the children. Great. Then the kids were done for the day. The cameras would come around to get the grown-ups, but you couldn't be using children anymore because they were off the clock. And there were adults the size of the children. Then we would have to do the scene with this guy with the beard looking at me like, while I'm scratching his back, you know. So that was always strange for us, was having to do this with people other than the kids.
J'ai fait une marque sur toutes les bouteilles d'alcool pour noter le niveau. J'ai mis un code sur les chaînes porno de la télé. J'ai compté les cigares de votre père. J'ai relevé les kilomètres sur la voiture. Je sais exactement combien il y a sur les comptes en banque. On vous aime, on vous embrasse. Il est hors de question que ma propre famille oublie que c'est mon anniversaire. On est bien d'accord?
Tu as parfaitement raison, ça n'arrivera plus jamais.
Et une fois par semaine, je ne ferai plus le dîner.
Absolument, oui, d'accord, super. Problème.
Et je veux que le linge sale soit dans la panière, et non pas à côté, et non pas sur l'abat-jour, et non pas en boule sous un matelas. Bon, on doit pouvoir y arriver. Si je commence plus tôt le matin, je pourrai sortir plus tôt pour t'accompagner avant que Riz aille au hockey. Sauf les jours où il sera collé. 6h moins le quart? C'est impossible. J'ai déposé Malcolm, j'ai récupéré Riz, le rôti est au four. Oh, que se passe-t-il? J'ai 25 minutes devant moi. Mais comment vous avez fait?
That woman won an Oscar. That's Octavia Spencer.
Non, je sais où sont les 3 enfants.
Oh, I'm going to go home and watch my show again. That's so wonderful to see that. Oh.
And Lois was seen as bossy, almost hysterical. Now people are like, well, she's doing what needs to be done. What's your take on Lois?
I always loved Lois. I have to say, I grew up in a family that was, it was strict. We really, we had marching orders. And so I don't think I ever did anything as Lois that was really, to me, that outlandish. The only time there was once where I didn't know how to ride a bicycle, and I got Reese to teach me to ride a bicycle or something, and he's laughing, and I took we were in an alley, and I took his face, and there was broken glass and I was like, if you tell anyone. I thought that was a little, I don't think I would have ever shoved my child's face into broken glass. But I think saying no is the greatest thing a mother has in her arsenal. And I especially in the States, I think people have gotten, I don't know here, but people have way too much leniency with their children. I did a character on The Simpsons for a while, and then they would send me all the merchandise from The Simpsons, and I never let my children watch The Simpsons because I thought they were so disrespectful.
But Malcolm is okay.
Well, because those children, I mean, they would not be disrespectful. But there was a character named Krusty the Clown on The Simpsons, and you'd pull this thing, and it would say, "You, sir, are an idiot." And my kids are walking around, and I said, "Give me that toy. That's out of here. You're not going to go around telling grown-ups they're idiots." I have some line, half the time, if I'm not screaming, they're not listening, or there was something once where I had a shoe library where in order to get a different pair of shoes, you had to bring back the first pair so that you didn't leave your shoes all over the house. So it was a lot of creative discipline. He's well. He's very, very well. We did Malcolm for 7 years. He started at 7. He ended at 14. He wasn't interested in acting at all. He goes to school at a very, very, very prestigious American university that he's asked us all to be quiet about, and he loves Charles Dickens. He's doing graduate work in Victorian literature, Charles Dickens. So which I admire too, because I think so many people think that being in show business is just the greatest thing in the world, and it's not for everybody, you know.
Many child actors don't pursue a career after that. So do you reckon he would do one of these conventions?
No. I think he's a very grateful kid for Dewey. Dewey was just so beloved. He was a little hamster kid. Linwood Boomer, the man who created the show, said whenever they were editing an episode and they were like, what should we do now? He said he always knew you could just cut to Dewey.
Right.
And just show a shot of Dewey and the scene was going to work. Because there was something about that kid that was just incredible. Holy smokes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, John Denver. Oh my God. Oh my God. Where did you get you just...
IMDb.
I live under a rock. All right. Oh my God, this was the first thing I ever did. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I was very, very, very lucky. I did theater. I went to the Yale School of Drama and, did 30 plays in 3 years and was very lucky. I had an agent who brought me right to Los Angeles. This was in 1982 from Yale, and I just worked in television all the time. But then I missed theater, so I went back to New York and I did theater. I was very lucky in that way. There was a series I did called The Paper Chase, which I had always loved. It was about people at Harvard Law School who were smart, and I was this very, very smart girl in Harvard Law School, which was so hard because you had to talk about getting your lines right. This was legal jargon. They had to be right. And there was a famous man named John Houseman who played Kingsfield. There had been a movie called The Paper Chase, and this was the TV series of it. And I was very happy. To leave Yale and then to be acting like I was a law student at Harvard made me feel very much at home. I loved that. But then also in Hill Street Blues, I had been cast in a movie and I had to get off Hill Street Blues. Hill Street Blues was a police show in America, and it was extremely successful. It was probably the first police show where there was constant, people were crossing in front of each other, there was commotion, there was chaos, doors were opening, police cars were, and I had gotten this movie with Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro. I was playing Robert De Niro's wife. So I went to Stephen Bochco, who was the head of Hill Street Blues, and said, I got this movie, so, you're going to have to kill me on Hill Street. And he said, why don't we just shoot you and put you in a coma in the hospital for a month, shoot the movie, come back? And I was like, well, no, I'm going to be in movies now. I'm working with Meryl Streep had just done Sophie's Choice. Robert De Niro had just done Raging Bull, and I was this kid. I was so excited about this. So Stephen Bochco said, okay, we'll kill you. And my mother in her bridge club in Milwaukee would watch Hill Street Blues on Thursday nights. And they would stop and they'd have their lemon meringue pie and they would watch Janie on Hill Street Blues. I didn't tell her this week I was going to be killed. So. And I mean, I get blown away. My mother said, Janie, you should. My bridge club was very upset eating our lemon meringue pie to see you shot in the face. You know? So that's a memorable part. But then in Falling in Love, the movie was not successful at all. But I got wonderful. I was married to Robert De Niro, and he leaves me for Meryl Streep, and you know, that was a very memorable experience, and I was proud of my work in that, and also that Meryl Streep in those days. Oh, I'm so old. You would watch the day. You know, there's none of this. Oh my goodness. You know, we had no cell phone. There was nothing. So they would have the big canisters of film, and you'd go to watch dailies in a screening room at the Brill Building in New York, and we would watch, and Meryl Streep would sit behind me. I mean, I couldn't even, I hyperventilated every time I was around that woman. I was so in awe of her. And she would always tap me and say, okay, did you see how you do that? That's the take they're going to use. It was really good when you did. She was so encouraging and such a mentor to me. And one scene, when I find out Robert De Niro has not been faithful, I slap him at the kitchen table. And we were shooting the scene, and the director said, Robert De Niro said to the director, I don't think she should hit me. And he said, okay, Bobby, okay. So we did the scene without me hitting him. We're watching dailies, and Meryl taps me and says, where's the slap? I said, he thought we shouldn't have the slap. And she said, you have to hit him. If you don't slap him, your character doesn't make any sense. We have to see how hurt you are by his betrayal, that you slap him. So I was like, okay, Meryl, thanks. I got a phone call. I was going back to Los Angeles to stick around. They were going to reshoot the scene with me slapping him. That she went to the, you know, and said, you've got to give. And that kind of generosity for another actor, but also her interest in making the film and the characters as valid as possible. I just have always, I mean, it made me more in awe of her than ever. This is good though too. This is The Changeling. You know, this was a real disappointment. Not the show, but the actors' strike was going on, so we couldn't do any publicity for it. And this character, Cal, on The Changeling, is a real total departure from what people usually think of me as. The Changeling on Apple TV. Mon cœur is beaucoup full of Parisians, of Français. I am so moved by the reception I've received here. I have and will continue to cry today out of happiness that I've been so warmly received. Thank you. Oh my God.
Keep it.
You can keep it.
Seriously, can I have this?
Yeah,
Sure, of course.